Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse. As you can clearly tell, I am on vacation. But it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. So, coming in for our top 10, the fun thing here is that given our evidence of the coming number one, it pretty much overshadowed the episode last week. So here we go, WAP by Cardi B featuring Megan Thee Stallion. I'll talk more about the song later on in the episode in its own piecemeal form, but it's so strong in all channels, even making a bit of a radio run, which kind of shocks me given, well, the content of the song. We'll get to it. But at the same time, it's doing really well. I'm not going to complain about that, and it easily clinched the number one by a considerable margin. This kind of places old stalwarts like Rockstar in a bit of a rocky situation, because it's still pretty strong in on-demand streaming and even the radio, but you're starting to see cracks in the armor. Hell, I'm even a little bit surprised that Blinding Lights moved up a spot to number 3, given that, well, the radio is kind of in free fall. That kind of speaks more to What's Poppin' by Jack Harlow going down to number 4, as it looks like some of that long-lasting strength is starting to bleed away in other channels. Then we got Watermelon Sugar falling off the number 1 to number 5. Kind of predicted that happening, given that the sales boost kind of evaporated. It got that added boost to get to number 1, but that was never going to last. And then we saw Rose's I'm a Beck remix still hold pretty consistent at number 6. Similar thing with Savage Love by Josh685 and Jason Derulo. It's making the move slowly, but it's just in evening up those margins, it's still at number 7. Then we got our second debut in the top 10 at number 8, that being Smile by the late Juice WRLD featuring The Weeknd. Again, we'll be talking a little bit more about this later, but as it is right now, it's doing pretty well. It's got the streaming it needs, it's got some of the sales boost it's got. So I'm not sure if it's going to stick around because the radio hasn't really got on board in spades, but we'll have to see. It's a good success story for now. Sadly, courtesy of the radio, Go Crazy by Chris Brown and Young Thug is holding at number 9, which I don't think we really need to talk about that anymore. And then riding the remainders of its radio, Before You Go by Lewis Capaldi actually cracks the top 10 at number 10. Yeah, this is sticking around, unfortunately, so I'm not sure how much longer it's gonna last, considering it's mostly got radio and sales, but not a good sign, that's all I'm saying. So most of our losers and dropouts, it's a pretty conventional week, so you kind of see a lot of this coming. Our 2 dropouts are mostly long running. We've got Trevor Daniel with Falling. Unfortunately, it's going to make the year-end list, but it's finally gone. Also, we have NLE Choppa's Walk 'Em Down with Roddy Ricch. I'm not sure how successful one way or another this is going to be. It's going to be a nail-biter whether or not it gets to the year-end list. Frankly, I hope it doesn't. I'm not a real big fan of NLE Choppa, but we'll have to see. Then we have our losses, and I'm going to try to keep this in order just so I'm on track here. So first of all, we got Be Kind by Marshmello and Halsey down at 100. Not particularly surprising. Again, it's on its way out. Move Ya Hips by A$AP Ferg featuring Nicki Minaj and Made TYO, which just utterly crashed off its debut from last week. Again, the Nicki stimulus package doesn't always hold up as well as it should. Then we got Life's a Mess by the late Juice WRLD and Halsey down at 97. Need It by Migos featuring Youngboy Never Broke Again, that's going down to 96. Conversations by, again, the late Juice WRLD at 83. Got It On Me by Pop Smoke, unfortunately down to 75. You really could push this as a single, it's really good. Then we have Exile by Taylor Swift featuring Bon Iver down at 61. Again, it's not being leveraged as a single much right now, which is kind of disappointing, but we'll get back to Taylor Swift in a bit. Then we got I Should Probably Go to Bed by Dan and Shay down off the debut to 60. I'm kind of okay with this going away as fast as possible. Then we got 55, we have Bluebird by Miranda Lambert. It looks like the song has peaked on its country radio. It's probably going to be on its way out pretty soon. I'm kind of okay with that. It's really overperformed all expectations. Then we have The One by Taylor Swift at 50, and rounding things out, we have My Future by Billie Eilish down to 39 off the debut, and Cardigan by Taylor Swift down to 24. I view this as interesting with Taylor Swift because again, she's traveling on a sort of pipeline where you'd think off of a less singles-driven album, she'd try to market all the singles she has. So with this falling off the way it has, might not be a good sign. That's all I'm saying. So okay, looking at her returns and gains, it's kind of a bag I did not expect here, because yes, Trevor Daniel's gonna replace himself with Past Life with Selena Gomez coming back at 98, and I Called Mama by Tim McGraw's back at 89, I guess it's kind of making its radio run as of now, and Tim McGraw is a proven hitmaker, so no surprises there. But some of our gains here, why is After Party going back up to 90 by Don Toliver? Or you have Pretty Hard by Parker McCollum at 77. I thought the song's momentum was starting to die off, but I guess it's doing okay. Then we have Breakin' Me by Topic featuring A7S. It picked up a little bit more to 77. I don't expect it to make a ton of run, but the success of Rose's I'm in Beck remix probably guarantees some success for it there. Then we had the deluxe version of Rod Wave's Album Bomb actually causing some success here, with Girl in My Dreams up to 65, and Rags to Riches up to 12. Yeah, I'm kind of stunned with that one too. Then we had some actual success for Kane Brown having a middling album bomb himself, courtesy of a mixtape he put out, which saw the success of Cool Again up to 40, and Be Like That with Sway Lee and Khalid up at 37. Finally, to round things out, we've got Megan Thee Stallion with Girls in the Hood. That's now at 35. I'm actually just surprised it's doing as well as it is, but I have to think that the success of WAP probably helped this here too. So, I'm fine with that. Let's hope it sticks around.
First I make him eat it till he locked jaw. Give it to him good, knock a nigga socks off. I run it up, they busy running they mouth. I'm a real ass, rich ass bitch from the south, yeah.
You know, you'd think for a song about bitches from the South, they'd actually have like triplet flows or sound like an Atlanta rapper. Well, maybe that's not fair. They're going for a little bit more of a stripped back, bass heavy sound that you would have heard in, let's say, 2005, 2006, coming out of maybe Houston or parts of Miami. And this particular artist, Mulatto, which is a name I'm not exactly comfortable saying, this particular sound is very bass heavy, very much in the Saweetie mold of getting money and fucking whoever she can in order to get there, presuming you could actually handle her. I don't know, I'm not exactly impressed by her flow or her charisma. She doesn't exactly stand out all of that much. And I will say this, if you're going to reference bitches from being in the South, why are you referencing New York baseball players and retired ones at that? And when Jared Jeter went to Miami, he kind of screwed that franchise? Look, I'm just saying, you know what, the song could be better, but honest to God, it might fit in the same vein as Saweetie, but I don't see it sticking around. Just saying. I'm gonna keep this pretty brief. How many generic reggaeton artists do you need to add to a song before it becomes interesting? Well, apparently more than 4 or 5, because this was a chore to get through. Again, a lot of the percussion is bog standard, capped off by a melody that is really bare bones here. And again, none of these guys show much vocal personality or much in their content that differentiates them. And I've been saying this for a while now. It might not be the second coming of Jeepeta, because I'm not sure what could be, but it still goes on for about 5 minutes too long, and I'm just not really a fan of this. But I think the bigger factor is that it's just not going to stand out. Let's move on.
Some girls get their mama on the phone, take a trip back home, pretend they never knew the guy. Some girls drink a bottle of wine, got a note extra text to get them through the getting by.
This is the sort of song that I just know deep down is gonna be pretty big, and that bugs me a fair bit. For one, this Jameson Rodgers guy is a nobody. I've not heard his name before. Apparently this is a lead-off single for him coming out of Nashville. And what I don't like about this is kind of intangible, but it normally comes down to 2 things. For one, the production, which feels increasingly stiff, entirely too reminiscent of Chase Rice, especially with some of the jingling and the percussion and the feeling that it's all too synthetic. But the second comes in the content. because I would say it's going for the bro country template, but since that doesn't really fly anymore, it's going for something that's a little bit more sophisticated, trying to list off all the girls that you would see in a breakup. And you know what? For some decent storytelling, that would be fine, except for the final lines that end in the sentiment, where some girls make it easy to walk away and move on with your life, but some girls don't. And the key thing is that if this was used as a point of introspection, that'd be one thing, but it's not. It's basically this guy going on about all the different types of girls, all their different stock characteristics, and, well, some girls, they make it easy, some girls don't, and I guess that's all on them, eh? And there's just something icky about how the song comes across, how very bro country it feels, without even really having a lot of the tropes behind it. Also, it feels like a massive Kane Brown ripoff, and a lot of the snap and a lot of the flow that comes into the pre-chorus and hook. So, yeah, hard pass.
6 million cash in my stash, I was waiting for the day to come. I'm on my tour bus right now, on my way to another one. Who got that brand new Bentley truck? I'm trying to order one. Soon as I get me one, I'ma ring me up and tin it up.
So, as I mentioned before, Rod Wave put out a deluxe album that's impacted the charts this week, and this is what seems to be a thrown together one-verse freestyle that came off of it. Kind of in the Mo Money, More Problems mold, where he's continuing to struggle, but he's moving forward and he's seeing success, but of course there's haters and people don't want to see him win. You've heard a lot of this art coming from Rod Wave before, and what's starting to bother me is that he's starting to fall towards a formula, when I think as a performer and as a writer, he's normally a little better than this. I'm not going to say this is bad per se. I like his flow, I like the intensity he brings to the song, and I do like some of the guitars that come in for a slightly more soulful tone behind him. It's got a bit more of an edge to it, and I like that. But I just know Rod Wave can do better than this, and the fact that it seems like he's already starting to coast, not exactly a great sign.
Why you always in the mood? Fuck around like I'm brand new. I ain't tryna tell you what to do, but try to play cool. Baby, I ain't playing by your rules. Everything look better with a view. Why you always in the mood?
I'm going to say this right now. If this doesn't become a hit, somebody in their management will have fucked up royally, because I did not expect this out of 24K Golden. I don't think anyone did. And then iann Dior in this collab, I had the lowest of expectations. And when it comes in with some of that percussion, could anyone blame me? I thought we were for yet another pretty generic trap song. And what we got might be one of the catchiest trap hits I've heard all year. No jokes with that. That guitar line, it's bright, it's sharp, it calls to mind a lot of what Juice WRLD was doing before he passed, with a lot of that pop punk and emo crossover sound. There's potential there. And yeah, it plays in a lot of pretty basic territory, but that hook is a monster, just in terms of how well the vocals are synchronized, how goddamn catchy the whole thing is. I'm shocked how much this works. And yeah, it's basic, but when it has the level of focus that this does, I think it kind of clicks. I think this is really catchy and I really like it. Yeah, check it out.
You know my ex, so that makes it all feel complicated, yeah. It all seems complicated. I read those texts that you sent to yours, but I'll never say it, yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about Machine Gun Kelly going in the pop punk rap rock approach. I mean, I'm not surprised by it. There's a ton of money in it right now. He seemed to have some aptitude given his crossover with Youngblood. And you know what? If he's spawning a scene that's blowing up as it kind of is, take a look at the last song, I'm kind of fine with it, especially as he's gone for a slightly more basic approach with his flow, but he's still got that pop competence that leads to a pretty decent song here, at least for his parts. I think the hook's catchy, I think the guitars have a lot of bright intensity, I think the percussion actually balances out pretty well, and I like how he plays off the song, where this girl comes into his scene that was his ex's best friend, and now they got drunk and they hooked up. And he's starting to have feelings for that. That's the sort of teenage romance that actually kind of works for the song. Then blackbear shows up. blackbear is useless. I want to bring this up again, but he's always so sour and bitter, and now he's seemingly looking at this newfound forbidden love and just crapping all over it. His presence adds nothing to this song. It doesn't even add complexity. It doesn't make sense with this level of anger and intensity comes forward, unless this is now directed at the X in the picture, but it just feels wonky. What's kind of a shame is that otherwise this was fine. Otherwise this might have even been pretty good, but as it is, it's okay. A lot of misspent potential, at least to me.
If all of the kings had their queens on the throne, we would pop champagne and raise a toast to all of the queens who are fighting alone. Baby, you're not dancing on your own.
You know, I remember when I first heard Sweet But Psycho and then saw a lot of the backlash to it, where a lot of people were calling Ava Max a Lady Gaga ripoff. Well, the funny thing here is, listening to her second single, which finally hit the Hot 100, I will say there's one common element in how they both worship a lot of vintage pop from the past, in this case with a song that has a pretty heavy interpolation of Bonnie Tyler. The other thing is that while I'm inclined to like it because you're building on a good pop foundation, I'm left feeling this is a little hollow, for lack of better words. Yeah, the groove is decent, I like the swell, I like the hook, it's a little bit more melodically developed, it certainly sticks with you, but the content is kind of basic. It's going for some very basic chess metaphors, trying to elevate the queens of the world. Nothing wrong with that. Self-empowerment anthem, and I will say I prefer this version that seems a little bit darker, but the other side, it's also kind of toothless. And that's what kind of bugs me about Ava Max. I wish she would show off more distinctive personality than something that feels this focus grouped, for lack of better words. I don't dislike it, don't get me wrong, but I feel like she's better than this, and I feel like maybe we aren't going to get another Sweet But Psycho, but maybe she could have built on that to a little more than this. I'm not surprised we haven't heard more from her, and that her new album is only just dropping soon. Just saying.
I wrote this song for you, so you should pay attention. I was just staring at the ceiling and got in my feelings, reminiscing about us fighting, fucking and chilling. Right now I'm riding through Memphis, passing through the city.
Okay, second Rod Wave song we're covering here, and honestly, there might be less to say about this one than the last one. It's a pretty basic, regretful love song where it's pretty sincere. I'll give Rod Wave a lot of credit for being able to sell this, and the production is in his wheelhouse, even if I'm not always certain he goes well against trap snares, especially ones that are as prominent as they are here. But I think my larger issue with Rod Wave at this point is song structure. I'd say 70-80% of the song is the hook, and it's not bad, but it doesn't really build to more. I kept feeling that beyond being a pretty basic and heartfelt love song, there's just not much to this. And the way it is structured, it feels kind of undercooked. Look, I like Rod Wave. Again, I will say this again, I think he's a really promising presence, but I also feel like a lot of the songs he's putting out recently are underdeveloped. And unfortunately, I can throw that on this song too. Just saying.
I do anything in my power to see you just smile. I want you to prosper and come proper, even if that means I ain't by your side.
I gotta be honest, this should work way better than it does. Because you'd think the late Juice WRLD and the Weeknd would actually feel pretty apt next to each other. They're both more emo than they let on. They both go for the dark, tortured soul approach that numbs all their pain with drugs. And they both have really messy engagements with women. You'd think they'd knock this out of the park, especially over a trap instrumental that gives them enough to work with, but this doesn't work at all. For one, it's both men reflecting upon their failings and being kind of miserable, which honestly might seem a little too obvious coming from both of them, but the bigger problem is that their flows don't synchronize whatsoever. There's a rougher, more organic edge that comes through in a lot of Juice WRLD's delivery and his cadence that the Weeknd is way too prim and composed for. If he was in his messier, lower register, it might connect a bit better, but this does not. You know what? I don't want to say it's bad. It certainly feels well constructed, but it doesn't have the soul or ragged energy that makes these artists at their best. And I gotta be honest, this was kind of a real disappointment. This should be better than it is. I'll say it again.
I said certified freak, 7 days a week, wet and gushy, make that pull-out game weak. Yeah, you dealing with some wet and gushy. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet and gushy.
Okay, so obvious silliness aside, I think a lot of people were expecting me to have some big, over-the-top, moralistic reaction to this song, and I kind of don't want to. Because for one, we've heard this sort of thing before. A lot of women have made explicit sex songs, especially in hip-hop. This is not a new thing. And more for the record, this isn't even as explicit as it's gotten. Have any of you been around in the 90s? Have you heard a Trina song? Have you heard a Lil Kim song? I guess my point is that for everyone losing their mind over a song like this raunchy getting to the top of the charts, that might be unique, but the whole sound and style of the song is not. That being said, do I like it? Yeah, sure, it's okay. I don't think it's bad at all. I think Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion have good contrast. I think Megan absolutely snapped on this. And I think the flip of the sample to something that's a little bit more explicit and derogatory to something that could be considered empowering, that's kind of inspired in the right way. And yeah, the song is filthy, but it's creatively filthy. It's fun about it. I could see that really working in a good context, and both Megan and Cardi can sell it. And for one, I feel like there's a little bit more creativity to this. When you get a lot of sex songs in this vein, they typically default to a lot of the same metaphors, whereas this is probably just silly enough and goes over the top enough that it actually works for me. So, no, it's not rewriting the book on sex songs by any means, but hey, if Megan and Cardi want to have some good times with this, and with a pretty solid groove that will inevitably play in the strip club forevermore, yeah, they got it. And I'm fine with this being number one, at least for a little while. Okay, that was our week. Overall, not a bad week. A little bit busier than I was expecting, but I'll take it. Worst for this is pretty easy. That Some Girl song, which unfortunately is likely going to become a country hit in Nashville, but we'll move on with the dishonorable mention, La Jeepeta, from all those assorted anonymous reggaeton dudes. We'll move on away from that. Best of the week, you know what? I would say WAP, but it's getting my honorable mention. With Best of the Week going to Mood by 24K Golden and iann Dior. Where the hell that came from, I have no idea, but I had a lot of fun with it. Really good song. I really hope to hear more in that lane. Next week, we'll be back on set, I promise, but until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliate with Spectrum Pulse.